Welcome to the meeting of the Plymouth Community School Board for March 7, 2017. If you'll please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Our pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item is to set the agenda. Dan, any additions or corrections?
Yes, there are, just a couple here. 2.3, claims. Number 3, in summaries. 2.4, comparison report. 2.14, PHS Robotic Club request for overnight and out-of-state trips to the U.S. Open Robotics Tournament in Council Bluffs, Iowa. 2.15, PHS JAG request. That's JAG, jobs across, what is it? I forget. But it's a work one group that teaches a class in the school. Overnight trip to the State Career Development Conference in Indianapolis. 2.16, LJH Music Department out-of-state trip to Music in the Park, Cedar Point, Sandusky, Ohio. 2.17, LJ 8th grade Chinese class out-of-state trip to Chinatown and the Field Museum in Chicago. 2.19, fundraising request. 2.22, adult education RFA assurances for 2017-2018. Business agenda, removed security report that Ted was going to give today. Added 3.7, summer projects, permission to advertise, PHS Turf proposal added, and 3.9, additional technology policies added. That's it.
With those additions, I entertain a motion on the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Motion and second to accept the agenda. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The agenda is adopted as amended. Thank you. Item 1.3, audience participation. Members of the audience that would like to discuss any agenda items this evening. Have another opportunity at the end of the meeting if you change your mind, but appreciate you all being here. Section 2 is our consent agenda. Are there any board members like to pull any specific item from the consent agenda to be considered individually? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second to approve. Questions or comments?
I would make a comment about a couple of retirees this evening. It's official, Mr. Tyree is retiring. And of course, Dan has served as a teacher and a coach and administrator, touched the lives of many students, faculty, and staff, member of the National Forensic Hall of Fame, and in my opinion has had a distinguished career, and we certainly thank you for your dedication and contributions and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
And I'd also like to say something about Rita Large and Denise Ecker, who are both retiring, and wish them all the best and thank them for their contributions from the schools.
Well, I'd like to echo those comments, and Dan, we go back quite a ways. I don't know, not many people remember this, but Dan was once a teacher of mine. In high school, I don't think he was too impressed. But I never quite made it in the speech arena, but I think that was when you first came to Plymouth, if I remember correctly.
I had you the first year.
Yep. So somehow I made it through that. But in my 20 years on the board, I've worked with Dan in a lot of different capacities. As a teacher, being a representative of the teachers in negotiations, as a principal at the high school, assistant superintendent. And I don't know that we've always. I think we have commonality in terms of how we look at public education, and I, for one, have appreciated your insight, your dedication to our corporation. And, you know, a lot of times when we get to this point, it's difficult so I really appreciate your friendship. And you've had a distinguished career here, and I wish you nothing but the best in retirement. And the corporation is much better served for your time, much better positioned for the time you've been here. And I think that's a legacy that a lot of us strive for, that you leave something better than you found it. And you can go fishing with the knowledge that that's happened here. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it. It's been good to me.
We have any other?
I don't think anybody can say it better than you guys have said it. So I'm in denial. He's not leaving, really.
It's good to be in your world, Melissa. We have a motion and second on the consent agenda. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Okay, we'll move on to our business transactions. The first item, 3.1, is a notice of hearing.
Yes, several years ago, we asked a group of stakeholders to tour the facility and make recommendations to help the district with the facility plans. Then we contracted with administrative assistants to do the same thing. So we had an inside group and we had an outside group of former administrators. Both groups listed the replacement of Lincoln Junior High as the most urgent building that needs to be replaced. This year we started working with an architect to study what the needs are for a new building, where it should be built, and what should we do with the building presently being used. It's now time to put the facilities plan to action. At the April meeting, we will hold a hearing to initiate the building of a new junior high. And this is just to serve notice that there will be a hearing, so it doesn't sneak up on anybody. It's not a,
Not necessarily.
no, it's just an informative.
Any other comments or? I think we're going to talk about, I don't know if we need to approve this, but with spring break, et cetera, we're going to have a change in our April meeting, so just make sure we get the notice, advertisement, all that.
Yeah, it'll just be the day before.
So we're going to do it on the 10th, which is that Monday, right after spring break. Well, we'll have more of an opportunity to discuss this at the hearing, and certainly many opportunities for the community to have input going forward. I think we've all seen this coming for many years. Some of us roam those halls at Lincoln, and it has been a wonderful asset to our community, no doubt. And I think the plan that we have to move forward and retain some of that history at the same time of recognizing that it has deficiencies in terms of today's learning environment, et cetera, and deal with some of the, at the same time, I'm not saying it's all going to go away, but I think we can go a long way in addressing the traffic issues that have been there for some time as well. But I'm excited that this is going to, I'm sure, I mean, this is a big deal, but I'm excited for a number of reasons. One, the location and maintaining that, I think, is important to our community. Two, the retaining some of the historical aspects of Lincoln is also important. Three, I'm proud of this administration and this board for thinking forward, and this is not, oh, let's have a hearing and move forward. This has been part of the strategic plan for many years, not the least of which looking forward in terms of, obviously these are expensive projects, but our debt structure is such that though this is coming at a time, and we knew it was coming, that our debt for previous projects from Menominee to Riverside will be falling off, and we can approach this project and minimize impact on our community as far as taxes as well. So from that perspective, I think we're well positioned. Certainly there will be a lot of decisions to be made, and I'm glad we're getting started with our hearing next month. Any other comments? All right, thanks, Steve. On 3.2 then, focus on learning.
Yes, tonight we have Lincoln Junior High. We have Mr. Garrity and Mr. Heron, our two facilitators at the Innovation Academy, and they're going to introduce some of their students for this evening.
I have a group of 4 students who are going to present about an integrated chem physics project that they did at UDL this year, so I'll let you guys go up and get started with the Claudia Marone, Addison Shardman, Lindsay Janice, and Jake Barrett.
Welcome.
We were here representing the Innovation Academy at Lincoln Junior High.
This is our Don't Text and Drive project. I'm Lindsay Janice.
I'm Claudia Marone. I'm Jake Barron.
And I'm Madison Shireman.
So our driving question was, how do we make an advertisement using the logic of physics and math, in addition to emotion, to convince the public not to text and drive?
So our purpose for this video was to learn how to calculate distance and displacement, speed, velocity, and acceleration. For our commercial, we wanted to include both emotion and how science is involved in texting and driving. So getting there, we conducted a lot of labs, and they're all listed here, but some of the more important ones we did is we calculated the distance of some of the roads in Plymouth, and we also texted using one hand like we would be on a road, and we texted a certain message during class, and we timed it to see how long it would actually take if we were driving to text a message.
Some of the better ads that were made were sent to WSBT, but we have no confirmation that they showed them. Plymouth High School announcements played several. LJH announcements aired 5 or 6 of them. And WTCA played 120 times. That was an audio segment.
And here's our video.
Oh, shoot. Hold on. I didn't know there was a video in there. Sorry about that. My bad. Nobody look at my password. Just kidding.
was 80.7 feet per second, and our time that we were looking at our phone was 5 seconds. So you multiply those together, and you get a distance of 403.5 feet. That is the distance that you went without looking at the road. We chose a speed versus time graph, and the red line represents you going 20 meters per second, and the blue line represents you going 40 meters per second. Now the vertical line coming off the two lines represents your thinking distance. What we mean by this is how much time you had to think about hitting the brakes. Now the slanted lines is your braking distance. Now what we mean by this is how much time you had to actually hit the brakes and how long it took for your car to actually stop. Now these two lines have the same amount of thinking distance, but because the blue line is going at a faster speed, it took it longer for the car to actually stop.
guys for listening to our presentation about texting and driving.
Very good.
All right, and then we brought 3 students from the 7th Grade Innovation Academy. We have Bryce Ziegler, we have Gabby Padilla, and Tanner Feast. They're going to share a presentation that they put together recently about an organization that is helping kind of solve an issue that people in Africa are facing as part of our survival unit that we're currently working on.
Alright, so yeah, we, in humanities class, we have been working on a project. Oh, sorry for my speech, I just got expanders put in my mouth. I'm still trying to get used to it. Yeah, so during humanities class, we've been working on a project that has to do with organizations that are helping people in Africa. And the organization we picked was called Soul.
This organization was founded by Drew and Asher Colley. They started out by watching a YouTube video on African kids because they considered adopting one from Uganda. They wanted to help combat jiggers or parasitic bugs that burrow into your flesh and destroy soft tissue and lay eggs that multiply over time. Soul Hope cleans African kids' feet and provides them with shoes.
Soul Hope's purpose was to create methods to combat diseases that enter through your feet and make a positive physical difference in other kids' lives.
So the issue that Soul Hope was trying to solve was the jiggers, the parasites that get in kids and people's feet and lay eggs. And eventually people with jiggers could die, get their body parts amputated, or some infections and so on.
95% of people in Africa have symptoms of jiggers. 70% of people in Africa with poor hygiene and poor sanitation will usually get jiggers, and 90% of people have used pins or needles to remove jiggers.
Some things we can do to help the organization is become an advocate or a supporter, and we can also donate shoes or just donate money.
Some other things we could do is join the shoe cutting party. The shoe cutting party is where they take foam boxes and cut little shoe patterns out of them and use string to keep them on the kids' feet. And also you can hold a collection spot or a collection drive to gather any medical supplies that help.
We should help because jiggers can cause foot disease or any certain amputations, and many kids have died from jiggers caused illnesses, disease. And we wouldn't want to not have a normal child life.
So a quote from someone that used to have jiggers that Soul Hope helped was, "Now that I'm jigger free and have no more pain, I can play football or soccer again."
Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Questions?
The program about the driving and texting, you said you only got one response from one TV station?
We sent it to them,
Did you send it to all of them?
I sent it to 3 of them up there, but
Yeah.
it's pretty hard to get a hold of somebody and get some
Oh, I
feedback.
know.
So I was trying to do it more local, trying to get it to our high school kids and get them to see it. That was one of the goals that I really had.
It's definitely an important aspect, and you would think some local insurance agents would jump on that and throw a bunch of support into your program that you presented.
Why don't you try talking to Jake Halinga, because he's a producer for the CBS, the WSBT Morning News.
Okay, I can do that.
Then on your jigger thing, did you guys have a program where you collected shoes or anything?
Part of it is that as they've been presenting, they're trying to convince the class to support their organization. So tomorrow we'll be finishing up the presentations, and then we'll kind of the next step is to figure out which organization or which presentation was the most convincing, and what organization maybe we want to move forward with. And so yeah, if they choose Soul Hope, then that would definitely be something we'll be looking into.
It'd be great. Kids did a good job. Very good.
What were some of the other issues that you guys researched, and why did you decide this one?
Well, I guess, do you guys want to answer that? Do you remember some of the other organizations that you guys looked at? You created a list of 3, and then you kind of assigned the ones that, do you remember those at all? What about some of the other presentations? What have they been about?
There was a water project one where they basically just they installed pipes and created wells for the people in Africa.
It's very compelling. I like the project. Very good.
Very
Both of you
worthwhile.
guys all did a great job.
Keep up the good work.
Well, thank you, both groups. Very impressive. Parents, thanks for letting them come out this evening and present that to us. I learned some things I really didn't want to know, I guess. But no, and that's part of the battle, right? In terms of raising awareness on whether it's texting and driving, you hear it a lot, but when you bring it back to your own community and see people you know in the video, I mean, that's where you start to hit home with people. So as you get older and get your license. So, and the other group, I learned a lot of, again, raising awareness. I've heard a lot of programs about, getting shoes and, just how much we take for granted. I mean, how many shoes do I have in my closet or my garage? So, thank you for that, and good luck with your projects, and thank you guys for bringing me. We know it's a school night, and you have lots of homework to do. You're welcome to leave. You're welcome to stay. But I'm guessing you're going to leave. So thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move forward. 3.3, ISTEP.
So tonight we have junior high and Plymouth High School reporting on their ISTEP scores for 2015, 2016. The role that these play in our accountability system, tied to changes that we've also experienced. We still feel it's important to show these to you and talk about them. So we'll start with Mr. Gold.
Good evening. Here to present our ISTEP scores from 2015-16 last school year. Our overall data, okay, from 7th and 8th grade students in English language arts, okay, we were 68.9. It's that middle column there for 15-16. You can see 14-15, and then the state average is in the right column. Math, okay, 51.1% of our students passed math, and then those passing both English language arts and math were 46.8. For our 7th grade, okay, just our 7th grade students, again, the columns are the same. 73.5% of our students passed English language arts, 54.1% passed math, and then 50% of our students passed both English and math last year. 8th grade, English language arts, 64.6% passed English language arts, and math, it was 48.4%, and then both English language arts and math, 43.9%. And then our disaggregated data, we have our special education. For some reason, the state did not get us that data back this year, but our English language learners was 29.6% passing, and then our free and reduced lunch population of 36.9%.
This here was our accountability grade this year. We're a C. That is the same as we were in 2014-15, and you can see us compared to the state in both math and English language arts. The percentages are a little bit different due to those students that were enrolled for 162 days of the year, as opposed to the first numbers where it was all students, even those that were not enrolled for 162 days. And then lastly, our next steps, okay, when we have the percentages that we do, okay, we want those percentages to be much higher. We know that we have a lot of improvement in our core instruction, and it starts with the instruction that all students get every day in the classrooms. And we improve that by our structured collaboration time that we have Monday PD time, and also each Thursday in our core content areas. We have emphasized small group instruction in our classrooms to in the core instruction, the tier 1 instruction, so that kids are getting the help that they need in real time. In order to get them that help, we need to improve our formative assessment, which is knowing where students are in relationship to the objective and mastering the objectives daily. So we need to make sure that we are asking and we are assessing those kids to find out where they are so that we can be responsive in our instruction. Feedback is important, both students and teacher feedback, but getting students feedback on their work and maybe some of the mistakes that they're making, or feedback on their learning so that they can then adjust themselves to where they are in relationship to the objectives, or the objectives. And then for those students that maybe even with our improved core instruction aren't mastering those objectives, we have to respond to them. And our emphasis has been on how we respond to those students that don't get the core instruction, and that is through identifying those who struggle, providing instruction that meets their individual needs in what we call tier 2 instruction. So a classroom of 25 students that are learning math and one-step equations, but if there's 5 that are not mastering that and they're showing difficulty learning the grade level objectives, then we identify those 5, pull them out, and we give them the help that they need in a math lab. Okay, we have various math labs, and those are the specific interventions that target those deficiencies that those students have. And then they don't miss their tier instruction, so that math lab is in addition to that tier instruction, and that core instruction. And then we need to monitor those interventions to see if they are actually improving with what we're doing in those math labs. So those are the areas that we need to improve upon so that more of our students are mastering the grade level objectives according to Indiana academic standards. Question?
Reed, I don't recall the next steps that you have outlined. Are these, or how materially different are these now than a year ago?
Well, they aren't a lot different because that core instruction is been a need. Okay, our data, as you can see, I have 14-15 data up there, and then 15-16. We're still not the percentage of kids that we need to be at. Okay, we're not where we want to be, and so we have a lot of kids that are not mastering that core instruction. So we've got to get better there. Research shows you're not going to intervene your way out, okay, of maybe poor core instruction. So I believe that we have to get better across the board, okay, in the first best shot instruction that kids get, so that we have more kids more of the time mastering those objectives. So they aren't drastically different. We have focused on formative assessment, okay, has been a a focus this year, and feedback, the feedback that teachers give students. So those two things are different in that top part. And then the response to intervention. As a corporation, we've been working a lot with response to intervention, and especially at the secondary level, that is something that we need to continue to improve. We've had math labs and language arts labs for a long time, but it's been maybe that, what I like to say is a shotgun blast. Okay, we identify kids, we put them in this math lab, and we just think, we just hope that that's the answer. Okay, but we have to do better at getting pinpointing specific deficiencies of kids, and then working with those kids on those deficiencies, and being targeted in those interventions instead of having an intervention that incorporates a wide range, okay, of needs. So, got a lot of work to do, and we are working daily to do that.
You have a question?
I do. Could I know, did the kids take it on the computer, the test on the computer, or?
They did. It was all computer this year.
This data?
Oh, well, I'm sorry. This data. I'm sorry. It was not. It was paper pencil last year.
Paper pencil last year.
This year we took it all on computer.
Okay. So then the one you just did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for me?
No, be interesting to see what the results are. Following year.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here with you tonight to present some data from the past year at PHS. So there are 5 pieces of information that comprise tonight's presentation. First, I'd like to share with you the end of course assessment, or ECA, results from the current junior class, which is the class of 2018. Then I'll present math and English I-STEP results from that same cohort. Following that, I will share with you the 2016 graduation rate and the college and career readiness percentage as defined by the DOE of that class. Let's go ahead and let's start with the ECAs. The ECAs in math and English are the graduation qualification exams for this year's junior class. So the overall results are based on who passed by the end of their sophomore year. If the students did not pass, they do have opportunities to retake that exam. It's important to note that the ECAs are being phased out as the graduation qualification exam. So the class of 2018 is the last cohort that will need to take the ECA. So the first slide with ECAs that I'm going to share with you, the 2018 cohort first had the opportunity to take Algebra 1 ECA in grade 7 at Lincoln Junior High. As you can see, 49 students in this cohort participated and passed the ECA in Algebra 1. What's worth noting is that PCSC had more students take algebra in grade 7 than ever before. For example, the 2015 cohort had 30 students take algebra in 7th grade. Taking a look at the same cohort, but now in grade 8, there are 55 students, different from the 49 in grade 7 who participated in Algebra 1 ECA at Lincoln Junior High. And of these 55, 50, 91% passed. 99 total students then came from the 2018 cohort, the PHS, having completed that graduation requirement. So at PHS, grade 9 is the grade level students take Algebra 1 if they did not take it at the junior high. So remember that the 99 students that I just mentioned, or approximately 1/3 of the cohort, they had already met this requirement, leaving 2/3 as test takers in grade 9. Because we are focusing on participation each year, Those who did not pass in grade 8 are being counted again in this chart. And as you can see, 111 students, or 69% of the remaining cohort, passed the algebra ECA in grade 9. So now we're looking at the 2018 cohort in grade 10. Here you see that there were 49 students who took the algebra ECA as retesters, meaning that these students had taken the exam before. 14% of these students passed. While this number is not as high as we want, we do offer lab support, mediation opportunities, along with targeted interventions for these students prior to their next attempt. So putting all of this together for that 2018 cohort in Algebra 1, looking at the big picture, 84% this year's junior class passed by the end of their sophomore year. The chart that I'm showing you now shows you the last 5 cohorts, 2014 to 2018. The graph displays the percentage of students who passed the Algebra 1 ECA by the end of their sophomore year. The 2018 cohort declined by 2% from the 2017 cohort, a 1.5% drop from the average of the last 2 cohorts. For the English 10 end of course assessment, students are allowed 1 opportunity to take the exam, which is at the end of their sophomore year. 182 of those 262 students, 69%, 2018 cohort, passed the English end of course assessment. The chart in front of you shows the previous 4 cohorts' performance in English 10. I'd like to point out that the 2018 cohort, as I'm sure you can see, declined by 6% from the 2017 cohort, something we noticed immediately, and we know that there's work to do. As we looked into the data, one thing that we found that was interesting when looking at the statewide data, that the state average from 2015 to 2016 dropped 7% as well. Regardless, like I said, we know there's work to do. And looking at the disaggregated data, we've identified reading comprehension as a targeted growth area as part of our school improvement plan. Like math, we offer lab support, remediation for those students prior to their next attempt. Now for ISTEP. The class of 2018, Church Junior class, they also took the math and English ISTEP at the end of their sophomore year. Unlike the ECA, though, this was not a graduation qualifying exam for this year's junior class. But the math and English ISTEP performance counted for 25% of our school-wide grade last year. Last year was also the first year that Indiana high schools administered the new ISTEP. In addition, I do want to note, while we're on the topic of ISTEPs, that it will be the graduation qualifying exam for this year's current sophomore cohort. The first slide regarding ISTEP performance is math. Here you can see 36% of the cohort passed the math portion. In the left-hand corner, you can see that the state average was 34.6. Here, you can see the cohort's performance in English. 59% of the cohort passed the English portion. Again, in the left-hand corner, you can see the state average was 59%. Moving on to one of the other areas that high schools are held accountable is the graduation rate. The DOE classifies this as a multiple measures domain. The chart here displays the 2016 graduation rate along with the 3 previous graduation rates as well. Why the decline, you may be wondering. To start, it is important that we understand we are looking at a different group of students. But to clarify, and so everyone's aware, even though 14% of the students did not graduate in the 2016 class, it does not mean that all 14% dropped out. 5% of those students are still in school, 2% earned a certificate of completion. that does mean that we had 7% drop out. Although we're certainly not content with this result, and we know there's work to do, as we looked at previous cohorts and compared data, when you look at the 2013 cohort, a cohort with that similar graduation rate, we noticed that that cohort had a dropout rate of 10%. So that does tell us that for the 2016 cohort, that there were 3% of students who made the decision to stay in school and come back that 5th year to get the diploma. So the last slide that I have for you, along with the graduation rate within the multiple measures domain that the Department of Ed has, the last factor that helps determine our grade is college and career readiness. The state defines that a college and career ready student has passed at least one AP exam, which means a student earned a 3, 4, or 5 on one of the AP class, exams that we offer students, or they've earned dual credit in at least one course. And the student cannot be counted twice. So we're happy to report that PHS continues an upward trend in this regard, with 74% of our 2016 graduates meeting that college and career readiness benchmark. And this increased percentage represents our second to largest growth between cohorts in the last 5 years. From 2014 to 15, for example, we had 47 to 62%. We've gone up from 62 now to 74. Worth noting is that for the 2017 cohort, for this year's current senior class, related to this broader domain of dual credits, we are projecting to have 12 to 14 students who will graduate with the Ivy Tech Core Diploma, which means when they graduate high school, because they've also earned 30 dual credit hours in a variety of competencies, by law they will get this diploma, and these credits will transfer to any public university in Indiana. In other words, their freshman year will be done. As I said throughout the presentation, we know that there's work to do. As part of our school improvement plan, we've identified areas within English and in math, targeting certain instruction, reading comprehension in English. And in math, we identify with our ECAs. It's also a subdomain for the I-STEP, linear equations and inequalities. Like Mr. Galt said and talked about with formative assessment and that Tier 1 instruction, what effective instructional practices are, making sure that we're tight in those areas, and that we're making sure that students have mastered critical content as we go throughout the year, so we know that we're ready to go when the test is here. This time I want to open up for any questions that you have.
Riley, what grade did the high school receive?
The high school earned a B. That is because, in short, this year we will be, the high school for the first time ever will be held accountable for student growth, which I think is a great thing. But last year there was no growth data available for that sophomore cohort. And so the state tweaked its percentages that it had publicized, and it lowered the percentage for performance, and then it raised the percentages for those multiple measures, which would have been the graduation rate, and it also would have been our number of students who earned dual credit. And because of that, we earned a B.
Hey, Kyle?
Yes.
So, on the English 10 scores, the 5-year trend,
Yes.
the 2018 cohort, their score was 69, but the same cohort scored 79 on their I-STEP in 8th grade.
That is correct.
What do you attribute that to, and what are we doing to fix it?
And that's a great question. I think there are two things I want to say. First, it's about taking ownership and responsibility for it. We talked about targeting the reading piece. When we look at the reading, we're seeing that as an area where our students are struggling. So we want to make sure that we're targeting reading comprehension. And within that, we're talking about vocabulary, talking about stamina, making sure that students can read for a certain period of time, those types of things. What I did point out as well, is we're trying to make sense of that data, and we saw that drop. For example, the 2017 cohort, we still saw that drop in the statewide too. And so what I'm hopeful is that we have the ISTEP now, we can start looking at the tests where we have some reliability and validity, hopefully, from year to year.
It'll change it.
Yeah.
In that kind of hope it's so.
You said it.
And you can't compare apples to oranges.
Sure.
But that is the only number that's upside down.
And that's why I prefaced it with, it does start with what we're doing in the classroom. You know, I think what Mr. Galt said about feedback is important. What we also know too is student expectations plays a key role. And so what we want is to make sure that students understand what their learning goals are when they're in English. And not just English, but when they're in other classes, and that other content areas are focusing on that crucial piece of literacy. And then I think as a broader piece, making sure that when we see gaps and we see struggling students, we're circling back and making sure that those students have those supports.
So certificate students count against you for graduation, I mean?
Yes.
But like my son, I mean, I was happy he got a certificate because he was never going to pass the algebra test.
Absolutely.
And that, I mean, that just doesn't seem to.
No argument here.
Because I mean, as long as he improved and did well, and that's just.
That's what it's about, improvement.
Yeah.
Growth,
Yeah.
Continuous growth.
proficiency.
Good report, Kyle.
Thanks for the data.
Hope to have a better one next year.
Yeah, we hope so.
Thank you.
Any other questions for, we got the other esteemed high school principals here as well?
You guys have anything to add?
I'm sorry?
Do you have anything else you to add? No?
Thank you all. Work to do. We'll go on to 3.4, legislative report. Anything you want to raise, or?
I'm asking Andy to.
Andy, anything you want to raise?
Sure, well, we're at the midway points, and so those that have passed the Senate or House Representatives have switched over to the other house, and three that just keeping a particular eye on is always the budget bill. House proposal has some increases. They've taken the performance grant out and put that in the foundation amount, so we'll see how that plays out in the Senate. The ISTEP to iLearn bill, and in the scope of, there could be changes, there will be changes, and to see how that ends up from the Senate will be also interesting to watch, and we hope for some of those things that we talked about, something that measures growth, that's adaptable, or adaptive for students, knowing where they are and measuring that growth successfully through time. And then the school financial management bill is another growth to keep a close eye on with respect to condensing those tax-supported funds down to one operating one, and just observing the details that emerge from that will be interesting for us, to say the least. So.
Anything on preschool?
Preschool, there's both proposals put through a bill with some slight adjustments, increases in those amounts, and kind of extending the pilot program a bit. So again, how those converge into conference committees and resolve that will be interesting.
The bill that changes the funds, I forget the number.
1009.
Thank you. I'm going to leave my cynical side on the sideline here, because I do have one, and I have an opinion on why they're doing that. But regardless, that's dramatic. There could be, in terms of, and there will be winners and losers throughout the state because of that change. So I'm watching that one for a while. But let's talk about that as it continues, because there's some things I think we should prepare ourselves for.
Great.
Any other comments or questions? Thanks, Andy. 3.5, science health curriculum.
Yes, so the
You
last.
went up, I went back.
The last couple months, teachers, third grade on up through 12th grade, have been reviewing new programs for science and health. It is time to adopt. We have not, we skipped a couple cycles there because the content that we had did meet the standards. The state recently did release new science standards. So using that along with the rubric and board policy, teachers are really digging into the new programs to make sure we have a program that's really going to support the needs of our kiddos. One big difference with the new science standards is the previous standards were really just focused on learning the content. With the new standards come new engineering process standards. So they focus on kiddos not just learning the content, but actually doing the science, which is great. So I think we're all very much excited about that movement. So by the next board meeting, the committee will bring you their top choices for your approval. We do have in our conference room samples of their top choices, and those will be up for public review March 27th through April 7th in the administration building.
Very good. Any questions at this time? Thank you. 3.6, summer projects.
Yes, normally Dave would be presenting this, but he's in a class right now. So we would like permission to advertise notice to bidders for asphalt replacement in the north parking of the high school. And I have included the ad that we'd like to present.
Very good. Is that it?
I've got the other one. Since the initial notice of the hearing, we're going to be building a junior high on the eastern side of the high school, or the junior high. There's not going to be a football field or a track that the teams can use, so they'll have to be using the high school. We already have a nice all-weather track, but our football field has lost its crown, and if we get a lot of rain, it becomes a bloody mess and dangerous near the end of the season. In order to provide a safe field, we have been looking at artificial turf. Last year, when we started looking at it, they were all over $1 million. And that has significantly changed from last year at this time to where we're at this year. Presently, the synthetic turf fields are being sold through the procurement process, which basically means they've already gotten a bid on their lowest rate, and you don't have to go out and take bids. However, of the fields that have gone through the procurement process, it is the lowest cost for a synthetic field. It's also, they've given schools an opportunity to pay on time for 5 years. This has not been available to schools in the past. The interest rate that we've gotten is, I forgot to come back and get that from you.
Currently, the current one we have.
No,
2.7.
No, the one that we're going to get from the bond bank.
We do not know yet. They have to close. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought we had that.
They did close on one that was 1.6.
1.6? Okay. We've looked at several different brands. We've settled on the Moats Group out of Cincinnati, Ohio. It's the same field that Goshen, or it's the same company that put Goshen and Warsaw in. And the field that we would like to have in ours is the same as the Warsaw. I know that's probably not a positive thing to say. But it's a very realistic turf. And I think out of all the turfs that I've seen, it was the one that impressed me most, looking like and feeling like being on grass. it's a lot like my lawn because it even has thatch in it, which makes it a softer field. The installation of the materials under procurement would be $794,600. I would recommend that we also go with the 7-year care package, which is $14,000. Every year they come in and sanitize the field, clean the field, and make sure the field passes the safety standards so the kids are safe. Presently, we have $224,000 in our account. That, along with the donors who are paying on 3-year plan, is very close to the cost of 2 years of the payments. If we are going to get this done in the summer, we have to get this approved at this meeting. And again, it just all depends on when we break ground for the junior high. That would probably be in the next year. I would recommend that we enter into a contract with the Moats Group for turf.
I would so move.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. Discussion?
Well, it appeared to me that if we're junior high teams, freshman teams, JV teams, varsity teams, band, you're gonna need a synthetic turf. That field cannot handle it. No way.
A lot more people will get to use it if we have the synthetic field than right now, because hardly anybody can use it, especially if it's muddy.
Any idea how long it lasts?
You know, this one they're saying will last 12 years. They guarantee it for 8. If you get the package where they come in and clean it, I think that's really important to the duration of the fields. But most of the fields, they're saying that they're only going to last 8 to 10 years. But this one, they've got a track record of going 12 years, 10 to 12 years.
And so we've got, did you say a 7-year program?
7-year care package. It's $2,000 a year.
Okay, wrong question. So we have 200 and some thousand in our account. You said that's 2 years of payments. Is this a bond bank program? I didn't understand what you were describing.
Yeah, it is a bond bank.
We can go through the bond bank program too.
We can either go through the bond bank or we can go through PNC with the interest rates.
Why are those the only 2 choices? I don't understand.
The bond bank puts them up for bid.
Which one for bid?
The leasing for a payment plan.
So this is a lease.
It is called a lease through the bond bank, correct. And there are several banks listed that bid. There are several banks listed that bid for it, so it is a bid process. They just do it for you.
And so we have, I'm sorry, I just need to process.
Yeah,
So we've got donations, we're going to continue to request those.
Yeah, we've got some that are already on a 3-year plan. If we go with a 5-year plan, I can offer it for 5-year payments, which I think the community will be a lot more favorable with the 5-year plan.
So excuse me, assuming the donations do not match what needs to be repaid for money for a new operation. Well, is this a package deal in terms of, what is it called,
Moats, MOTZ.
MOTZ. So are you asking for pursuing that? Is this a package deal that it has to be funded under this program?
No, it doesn't have to.
just want to think through that, talk through that. Going that route, being a lease, that automatically is within our maximum limit. So my concern would be, I don't know how this legislation is going to play out and what our maximum levy within this operating fund is going to be. And so I just want to think through and talk through. I don't know what our timing is for a funding mechanism.
We have to enter into a contract with them after this meeting.
We don't have to do it.
In order to get the football field put in.
I understand that component of it, and I'm not suggesting we drag this out, but I think, correct me here, Attorney, but I think we can enter into the contract because even though we won't, we have funds to back up the contract. We have the ability to pay. We're not going to drain our funds to do that, but we can enter into a contract because we have the ability to pay it. I'm just suggesting that let's think through the financing a little bit.
Okay, we can do that.
So I just want to make sure we weren't in one motion approving that as part of the contract as well.
The recommendation would be to enter into a contract with Moat Street.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to that effect. Is there any other questions? Yeah.
Just to be clear, the recommendation also was for the parking lot project.
Yeah, I understand. Any other questions? Is that a hand?
The 224,000, is that donations?
Most of it.
Most of it was donations, and what would the other part be?
Some CPF money that we had.
Okay. Thank you.
That's about a third of the project. Or more. So we have motion and second. Any other questions? I do think long-term, for a lot of reasons, this is a good thing. So don't get me wrong, I just want to think through the finance. And not only for what we described, but PE programs and those types of things, and community, it expands the opportunity for use of campuses. But we don't need money to fix our thing on the back of the bleachers, it's flopping around in the wind.
No, that is under
Warranty.
That is under warranty, and right now, we're arguing with them because we want the entire thing replaced. And we've talked about it as we've gone on, but it was never installed correctly.
All right, motion and second to include the several projects of the parking lot and the field. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Resolution 2017-4, voiding checks.
Yes, in the IC 5-11-10.5-2 provides that all warrants or checks drawn upon public funds of political subdivision that are outstanding and unpaid for a period of 2 or more years as of the last day of December of each year can be considered void as long as you approve of us voiding those and putting them back into the funds in which they were originally out. And I have on this listed the date of issue, the fund it originated from, and the payee. And yes, we always send out, actually every month, if we notice someone has not cashed a check, we send out affidavits, and these are from people that have not sent back or responded to us. It's a total of $53. It'll help pay for that. No.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and second to approve resolution 2017-4. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 3.8, second reading, new and revised policies.
This is the second reading, carryover from last month. Had an opportunity to discuss it with the Teachers Association. I'm happy to entertain any questions that you have. Otherwise, I recommend you put it over to you.
Do you want to we have to have a motion on the second, right?
Yeah.
I'll move we accept them.
Okay. You have questions?
Mhm.
I'm anticipating. So let's get it on the floor. Need a motion. Is there a second? We have motion, second comment.
Okay, so one of the new policies involves crowdfunding, like GoFundMe's, and does that also include like Donors Choose?
It would, yes.
Okay, so any teacher that chooses to use one of those mechanisms to help augment money for their classroom needs to have it approved through their administrator or through this office?
It'd be through the school board ultimately.
Yes.
And the purpose of that would be for really protection, as money starts to exchange hands, the fact that this body would approve that, keeps record of that, makes it official, and to protect the teacher.
And this is actually, so goes into effect immediately? Or it's already in effect?
It would, yes. You've been approving some of those, it's been a part of our
Right.
practice already.
Mhm.
We just haven't had policy that matched that, and so we wanted to,
Okay.
with the expansion of that funding source,
Mhm.
fundraising source, the recommendation to us has been, let's make that a bit more specific for the policies.
And they'll be notified?
They've been following that.
Okay. Okay. And the other thing was the coaches training for concussion stuff. Do we, I see that we have to have all individuals that are coaches, including, I'm assuming, volunteer coaches, have to be trained in these protocols?
So that's reflective of state law, and yes, we currently do that. It's part of our practices right now. Again, we're having policy that matches that.
Do we have anyone on staff that provides these trainings, or they have to go somewhere to get these trainings? And can we have somebody on staff?
They're internet-based.
Internet-based, okay. Okay, all right.
Our relationship with St. Joe really helps in that regard as well.
Yes.
Todd Stillson's played a lead role in that too.
Good.
We have an advisory council that Mr. Hartley sits on with us.
Yes.
And they're very proactive.
And then the other one I just wanted to mention was the bus safety procedures. That's also a new guideline. I know our procedures are already pretty good. Is there going to be a special training for this, or is this something that we're already following and we're just putting it into place?
The latter, yes.
Okay.
And we do provide training for our bus drivers every year. They have an annual meeting that keeps them up to speed on the required training.
Yep.
If anything new or of an emergency nature would come out, we would address that immediately.
Okay. That's all my questions.
Any other questions? We have a motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 3.9, new and revised technology policy guidelines, first reading.
First reading, as I indicated last month, there's going to be a separate group coming out related to technology. We just wanted to further prepare. I actually had our technology department also review, as well as distributing our communities. And so it's first reading. If you have any questions now, I'm happy to entertain. It's not an action item tonight. Or between now and our next meeting, I'm also happy to entertain questions.
Any questions for Andy this evening? 3.1, permission to hire.
Yes, at this point, the only teachers I want to hire would be the ones that are retiring. And the only difference in what we would do is that we've been using a part-time art teacher at the junior high. We're going to go to a full-time art teacher at the junior high. The cost will be basically neutral because the person who was doing the part-time was at the very top of the schedule, and we'll probably hire somebody that's closer to the bottom of the schedule. I'm sorry, I thought I turned that off. That's all I'm asking, is to replace the teachers that are leaving us.
So moved.
Motion and second. Questions? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Section 4, superintendent remarks.
Yes, our core values, commitment to kids. Jefferson Elementary will host a preschool roundup on Thursday, April 13th at 6:00 p.m. You know, we're pretty lucky because we've gotten involved in preschool for a lot of our students already while it's being debated and we're probably not going to see it happen, mostly because of there aren't rooms in all the corporations that bring in preschools. The capacity is just not there. High expectations. Plymouth High School will hold their annual academic excellence banquet March 20th at 2017 at Swan Lake, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Students in the top 5% will be honored along with their most influential person or teacher. Teamwork. Today, our high school seniors went to Swan Lake to partake in an event called Made in Marshall County. Nearly 20 industries talk to students about jobs that are available in Marshall County and what they actually do. You know, we drive through the industrial park all the time, but just don't always know what's going on behind those doors. And last, enjoyment. Make sure you put the Band Boosters paddle walk on your schedule for this Saturday at Memories Banquet Center. This is a fun event to raise money for the band program. And our next meeting will be April the 10th, which is a Monday. It's different than the ordinary first Tuesday of the month, so it'll be the first Monday of the month. Second Monday. Sorry.
Questions for Dan? Any other comments from the board? Any other comments from the audience? Thank you for being here. Hearing none, or seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.